Hello and welcome to Stumbling on Happiness review. So, what's things that I found interesting when reading this book? So the first thing is we see here we have we like to think about the future because you're most likely make it positive. So what it means is that usually we like to think about the future whenever we have case. So that's something that we all like to do. We just think about the future in such a way that will possibly make it more positive than what actually is. So this is one of the reasons we actually enjoy the process of thinking about the future. And unlike the past, sometimes the past, even the past we can do that, but particularly about the future, we will most likely make it positive than what actually is. The next one we have, people are willing to bet more money on dice they will roll than other people. So what I find it really fascinating is that I know I fall for that too. So when you roll the dice yourself, you think there is more with a quote unquote luck to it. So you're most likely to think, oh, I can make this happen. So it's like you think you have some kind of a power, unlike when other people do that. So when you throw it, you really have that belief that you can make it happen. So you need this 7, and you're more likely to bet more money on dice that you roll. And casinos know that. And there is that game, I forgot the name. But you roll the dices, and it actually, I think that's a part of the next one we have. The main idea of this book is that we fail to imagine both ways. Mean we understood things that will influence or over-evaluate things that will influence, which means that we are bad at imagining, which means that when we imagine the future, we are either underestimating the factors that will go into or overestimating. So it depends for a good or worse. So if it's a good thing, we are most likely to make it much better than what actually is. Oh, when I'll get this new car, I will be so happy. I will be that's gonna make my life so good. And this is an example of the situation when we over-evaluate the situation when it actually is. When we will be there, this is going to be only a tiny part of our actual life, and it's not going to take much. And an example for underestimating what we're imagining is, for example, when we say, oh, we will move to, we think about a bad, like let's say it sounds bad, but when we lose a relative, we think we won't be able to function right, and that's going to be devastating. We won't be able to do anything in our lives. And again, we underestimating how this, it can be also overestimating, but how this particular situation will affect our lives or impact our lives. So yes, it will be hard, but there is so many things that you do other than that in life. So you won't be that devastating. You will be devastating, but you don't really understand as much. When we imagine things, and the next one is, when we imagine things, we actually use that particular skill of our brain. For example, when we imagine a penguin, we will use the vision part of our brain. Same thing with true for auditorial objects. So I really find it interesting that when we think about something, again, it has something with imagining. Well, let's say we are seeing, so we will actually thinking about some kind of object, and let's say a penguin. we use this particular part of our brain, the visual part of our brain. So we actually use this part. And also same thing when we want to hear our favorite song, you will most likely actually use this auditorial part of our brain in order to do that. And I find it really fascinating. It's interesting. The next one is we fail to understand how we like a person in the future. So I like this example he gives in the book when you and I noticed that I do that the same when you in some kind of a vacation, let's say, and you found someone that is coming from the same city or even the same country that you are, you're most likely to get along with them then, and really good. This is like a very good friend of you right now, and you become the best friends. But what we fail to imagine is how well we will be able to be friends with them in the future. So we have this, we think this is because when in this situation, he is the closest thing we have for friends, but we don't really understand that we have a lot of differences. So when you have other people that are more likely, so your real friends, you can say, so this is a better way of, those are, so compared to your real friends, this friend you just met is not such a good friend. But compared to all foreign people that you were, let's say, in France, or compared to all French people, this American is much a better friend to you than the other people. So I really like this example. It's amazing. The next one is our brain is naturally finding ways to make experience look better for us. And I also noticed that and this is he repeats that many times in the book, that our brain will always try to make things much better for us. So we will always look for ways to interpret a situation as a bad thing. So even when a bad thing happens, we always, okay, that's actually good because I learned good things from that. So your brain always trying to convince yourself that a particular situation was good for you, even though that was not necessarily that way at all. Next one is we need to find the balance between when to be realistic and optimistic. So it has something to do with what I just talked about, is to understand when your brain is doing that. But because sometimes you need to be, there is a fine line between being realistic to be actually when it's actually the experience was bad for you, and being optimistic. So when you look, okay, yeah, it was a good experience. Actually, it was a good experience. So you need to not lose it, because you can always go all the way to one side and all the way to the other. So we need to find the right line, the right way, and the right balance between those two. So don't let your brain be optimistic all the way. So every situation is the best thing that happened for you. But in the other end, don't be too realistic. Don't be, no, that was bad. So you need to there's a fine line. The next one is inaction hurt more than action, because we can make excuses for why it's good. So when we don't do something, so when we didn't buy the stock, hurt more when we bought the stock, and of course in both situations the stock fell or the stock went up. So when we didn't do something, we are much more likely, or it will hurt more, because we can make that excuses. So we make excuses and we try to make situation much better, that looks better for us in so many ways. But when we didn't do something, we cannot say that because we didn't do that, so it hurts more. So when you did it, you have, oh, okay, that was a good thing. I'm not sure the example with the stock was good, but the idea is that when we didn't do any specific action, it's much harder and to make excuses, and therefore that why it hurts more. The next one is when a group don't like you versus one person, it hurts more because you can make excuses so easily. Same thing with the excuses is that there is some studies shows that when there is a jury so a group of people don't like you, it hurts more because you cannot say, when it's one person, you say, okay, that person didn't like me because this and that is different than me, and all kinds of excuses. But when a group of people don't like you, it's much harder for us to make excuses because there is a lot of people. Why so many people don't like you? Of course, it's subconsciously. It doesn't work on a conscious level. So we just, okay, we will feel bad, but we don't exactly know why. So it's more of a subconsciously way because we can't find the reason. The next one is when people suffer more, they will find meaning in more ways. So when people suffer, and we can see that in in many situations in our lives. So when people suffer, they're more likely trying to find meaning, and it's correlate with the same idea that we're trying to find the silver lining in everything. We're trying to find why it's good for us. What can we take derived from this situation? What can we learn? So when suffer goes up and suffer increase, we will more likely to also do the find the meaning in more ways. And we get really creative in this. And then now we have the last one is we tend to find the silver lining when we get stuck in a situation or with something. So similar to the one before is that we tend again to find the silver lining when we get stuck with something. So let's say we already bought something and we got stuck with it, we will find. So it's really similar to the one before, but it's more when you get stuck with a situation, or we're already in a situation, we can't get away with it, and that helps us to find the silver lining. And in some way, it means that it's also good sometimes to get stuck. So let's say the paradox of choice also means that a lot of ideas, a lot of options are not good for you. And this is one of the reasons that it's bad for you, because there is many options and you can always, let's say, return a specific object. I know what it happens for me when I can return. I always say to myself, okay, I can always return, so I'm never really happy with it. So and that's gonna be a good reason for that, because when you get stuck with something, you will find the right excuses to make it worthwhile. Because okay, I'll use it for this, it's not that bad, and you will find all sort of excuses. And that's pretty much it. And I really enjoyed that book. Wasn't like stars wise, I would give it like probably around 4. So maybe we would say like 3.5. It wasn't like the best, but it definitely has some interesting. I learned some interesting things from this book. All right, adios.